Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. This is Janice Deloy with OHUG. We're happy to have you here. We're excited to be hearing all about Oracle Me today with Deborah Lilly and Jennifer Mitchell from Inoapps. Deborah?
Thank you very much. And thank you, Janice, for the opportunity to do this. I'll talk about how that happened in a minute, but we're very, very grateful to be here. I'm very excited to share what we've been doing with the Oracle product. So the presentation is called My Contractor Experience, which is our offering around we took a use case that we thought that we could use the Oracle Me platform for, and we're going to talk through that. It's not limited to what we're showing. This is just a way of demonstrating what can be done. So our area that we're looking at today is My Contractor Experience, and we're looking at organizations that have a high volume of contractors or temporary staff that they bring in, and how do they manage that, and how do they manage the processes that go between finance and HR, and the processes that are needed to make that happen, and some of the challenges that we see. So we'll roll back a bit and talk about how did we get to that point, and then we'll go in and look at the application itself. And as it says in the abstract, this was around a competition that Oracle launched, and they awarded to 3 partners at CloudWorld their presentations around this technology, and we were very, very proud and pleased to be included in that, and had the opportunity then to present with Oracle Strategy with Nancy on stage at CloudWorld. So really pleased to be doing that, and great to get an award and great to be recognized. So first of all, who are we? So my colleague Jennifer and myself. Jennifer, tell us a little bit about you.
Sure. So I'm the practice lead for the HCM practice for the US. So I'm located in Houston. And before that, I was a consultant solution architect at Inoapps. And now I've taken on the practice lead role for our organization.
Brilliant. And my name's Deborah Lilly, and I've been working in the Oracle world for probably longer than Jennifer's been on the planet. My role in Inoapps is around growing our business and making sure that we work well with Oracle. And so when this opportunity came up, I said, yes, we should be doing this, but actually it's Jennifer's team that's done the work. So I'm really, really pleased that Jennifer's with me here today. So let's roll back a bit and talk about what is it that we're going to explain and show the use case, and how did we get there. So at the end of 2021, Oracle launched their journeys. And initially it was about, let's replace your onboarding checklist with journeys, but there's so much more that you can do with it. And they approached us and they said, hey, we're using this. The use case we're talking about is, managing meaningful change. And they talked about, how could you use this perhaps if you were going back to the office for the first time, or, because we were way in the pandemic at the end of 21. Floyd Teeter from the Oracle Center of Excellence asked us if we would have a go at it and showcase something on Customer Connect. So we talked about it, and we did a proof of concept, and we did a couple of sessions on Customer Connect, and thought that this was technology that was going to really be a game changer for HR users. That ability to say, how do you want to consume the things that you need from HR? So we've been in that stage where we're now doing most things self-service, but we all work in different ways. And and how I want to work might be different than somebody else. But also, what if it's not something that I'm going to learn about? So for instance, one of the examples that Oracle would give is, what if I'm an employee and I'm expecting a baby? What does that mean to me in my job? What's the company policy? What are the things that I need to do? How do I understand it, etc.? And so that's a journey that I could opt to do. So I could look and see what happens if I'm expecting a baby. What happens if I'm moving house? What happens if I'm going through a divorce or a separation? And then have the system walk me through the HR policy and what I needed to do. So we thought that journeys was really powerful and something that our customers started adopting really, really quickly. And the analysts loved it. What the analysts really loved about it, and it's easy to say that other HCM products have similar solutions around how you consume your employee life. But what the analysts loved about journeys was the fact that you could either opt to do it yourself, or you could assign a journey to a person, or you could have a pool of people who we thought should be going on that journey. So something, an office move, or a practice project or something. You could set that up with a group of people, and the analysts really liked that. And so we did a presentation with Customer Connect, and I believe that that's still on board, that's still available, and with a demo about how we thought that worked and how we as an organization would use it. So it's really important to say at this point that Inoapps is an Oracle user. So we use, we're a company that delivers Oracle services, but we use Oracle to run our business. We use Oracle Financials, we use Oracle HCM, not just core, we use recruitment, we use learning, the whole gambit of HCM. And we were using journeys ourselves, and how we were going to use that to help us with our growth plans, and the sense that was making. So that was at the end of 2021. And then in April last year, we had this presentation, and it was about what Oracle doing next. So Chris Leone, the head of HCM, did this webcast in April last year, and he said, let me talk to you about our My Experience platform. So way beyond just journeys, what else can we do? And he gave that presentation last April. And if you haven't seen it, we'll make these slides available, but I've put in a barcode there, and the YouTube, you can search for it on YouTube. But it was an amazing presentation. And I think probably the fact that the detail hadn't been leaked before made it even more powerful. The first we heard about it was when he stood up and gave this presentation. And I got this email from our CHRO, hey, we loved this presentation. When can we have it? Just flagging that this is on our list of continuous improvement today, right? Like, she heard about it the same time that we did. So Jennifer's our practice lead, and she's hearing about what Oracle are delivering. And our chief people officer is saying, hey, how quickly can you put this in my system? That was the reaction that we were getting. And this is our chief people officer. And she said, how soon can I have this? And I said on LinkedIn that night, nothing tells you Oracle has got something right more than a customer saying, when can I have this? So the effort was on. And again, that analysts loved it, right? So Oracle won awards for this functionality, for this technology that they were bringing in. HR Tech said this is their best HR product. This isn't an Oracle award. This is a HR industry award for what Oracle were doing. So that was brilliant, right? Absolutely fantastic. Oracle had come up with this technology, and basically it was a platform around a number of things, some that were new, some that we'd had for a little bit, about how can you consume HR in an organization. So I'm going to hand over to Jennifer, and she's just going to tell you a tiny little bit. As I say, you can go back and hear Chris's presentation, but just a flyby of what's in the platform. Jennifer.
Okay, so yeah, as part of the My Contractor Experience, we wanted to use all of the Oracle Me My Experience platform. And we knew that this platform really unifies a lot of the HCM offerings and tools. And we thought this could really strengthen the contractor lifecycle. So when we started building out My Contractor Experience, we really wanted to challenge ourselves to build a solution that could utilize as many of the Oracle Me features as we could. So luckily, we were able to leverage almost all of the Me platform in our contractor experience. So as you see, a lot of new functionality, journeys, connections, HCM Communicate, Touchpoint, we have Digital Assistant and Help Desk. And we also have some Oracle Cloud Infrastructure process engineering and some IP with third-party apps built on Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. And we were able to design our solution around this Me platform. Go to the next one. Oh.
Yeah. So some of the things that
one
sorry.
back, Deborah. Oh.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay, so for the organization, one of my roles is the subject matter expert for our internal HCM system. So as a consultant, I do the same thing internally. I help with the upgrades and testing and releasing new functionality to our users. And I work with our HR team. So like Deborah was saying, our CHRO really wanted this new functionality. And we decided, what should we do? We hadn't used journeys yet as a company, and we really wanted to use it as an organization to find a way to drive our behavior internally, because we knew that we were going to have a challenge with getting our employees to adopt using the system. So even though we are an HCM implementer, we do a lot of Oracle products. So we have teams that were working on JDE, PeopleSoft, EBS. So not everyone has ever used HCM Cloud. So we decided we should create a journey, and we wanted to get our employees to populate their personal information. So very common use case that most organizations need help with. And then we decided, what if we add our new salaries for 2022, our new merit cycle salaries to the journey? So we thought this would drive some of the behavior. We'd have this really personalized experience. And at the end of it, you get to see your new salary. So we launched the journey, and we had almost 100% uptake, because the only way for you to see your new 2023 salary was to complete the journey. And we had really good positive feedback. It helped HR to capture that really essential information. And a lot of employees, it was their first time using the system.
So what Jennifer missed out there was, at this time, we had just acquired another company. So it wasn't just our existing users who used HCM, perhaps not as much as they could have done, but did use it. But we also had this new group of people who had not used Oracle before. And so we went through this process, which got existing employees to do a check on their data, and got new employees to pick up their data. And as Jennifer explained, there were a number of admin things we wanted them to do. But at the end of that, although they knew what the percentage of this salary increase was, to actually see the figure written down, we walked them through that. And for me, you're used to getting emails from different parts of the organization asking you to do things, and you either do it or you don't. And actually, you probably think, oh, well, I can do that tomorrow, or do it bit by bit, because there's a list of things to do. So I'll just tick them off one at a time. But this actually drove you to do it in one session. It was really, really good. It wasn't game. Well, I suppose you could call it gamification to get people to get to the end. but it drove it, and it drove it in a fun way. But we achieved our objectives, which was having data checked, new data added, making sure everything was right, going through some other admin processes, and then coming to the last bit. So I put on LinkedIn again that we were doing this, and we got lovely feedback from people. Hey, you know, we love the way that looks, love the colors, you know, great to hear how you're doing it. Yvette from Oracle Strategy said, hey, I love that you're taking transactions into interactions. And that's exactly what it is. We were having a conversation with our customers. And then Yvette actually reposted that. So that was very powerful for us. But for us, it was about showing it in action. So quite often, you know, I'm assuming that most of the people on this call are using Oracle. We get our quarterly updates and you read all the release notes, and the new functionality isn't normally switched on. So we tend to find that customers who are in their implementation cycle take new functionality quicker than customers who've been live for a while. But in this case, people wanted to start using journeys really quickly. And, you know, Jennifer has a number of customers that not just the new customers where it's part of what they were sold, but the existing customers where we've spoken to them and said, hey, do you know what? We think this will add value to your organization. We think this will help you. And in many cases, they're like our CRO, ring us up like the day after and saying, hey, we really think this is going to make a difference. So, you know, that's where we were. Then Oracle did something that I haven't seen in the 25 years that I've worked with Oracle. They ran a competition and they said to their partners, okay, we've talked about this platform. We've brought all of this innovation together. We're talking about it as a platform and encouraging customers to use it, but we need more use cases, more ways of talking about it so that customers can understand what that could do for them, right? So they had this competition and they said, build us a proof of concept, and it's got to appeal to development because development want people to adopt it and to tweak anything that needs tweaking. It's got to appeal to strategy. Is it the right way that we're not pushing customers, but taking customers the way that they want to go? And, you know, this is, you know, at the end of the day, is it going to help drive sales? And it's not, you know, we're not going to go into pricing today, but some of the components like journeys aren't an additional cost. So it's about making Oracle HR more valuable rather than necessarily selling extra bits. So some of it is additional cost, but a lot of it's already in there. So anyway, we thought, yeah, this is for us. This to me was someone saying, Deborah, what do you love doing most? And we're going to make a competition out of it. Because I love taking an Oracle announcement and pulling it apart and rebuilding it. That's not because I want to shoot Oracle down, but I talk about, you know, in conferences as an ACE director, I often talk about the concept of the gap between marketing and reality. So Oracle tell us about what they're doing with the product, but there's a time lapse between that adoption. And sometimes that time gap is a long time. And on premise, it was a long time because not only did it take a while to get into the application, but it wasn't until you did an upgrade, which might be several years away, before you got that functionality. In cloud, we don't have that gap because the innovation's being delivered all the time, but there's still that adoption bit. So I love to pull it apart, work out what's actually there, what needs a little bit more, give feedback to Oracle development, be ready for our customers, and then, you know, ready to, you know what we're doing before we get the first customer, so that we're not necessarily learning everything on the job. We're always learning new things, but not necessarily on the job. So to me, the idea of a competition was absolutely fantastic. So we had a brainstorming session within Inoapps. What are we going to do here? And I also believe that technology is not something that you say, hey, here's a shiny new toy, what can I do with it? what we should be saying is, what are the challenges an organization has, and will this technology help? So driven by the customer need rather than by, hey, here's a shiny new toy. So one thing that came out really quickly in our brainstorming session was this idea of working with contractors, because we've seen this with customers. We have it ourselves, some of the admin overheads of having contractors. And so we thought this was an ideal thing. Also, everybody understands the concept of employing temporary workers. So it was a use case that would appeal to everybody, even if they weren't, this wasn't specifically what their organization needed, but it was something that we could use to demonstrate the power of the platform. So it's a common challenge. This is not a new problem that we came up with. So basically an organization, and that might be, so we're professional services. We need contractors when we have projects that we don't have enough staff for. So we need additional people in our projects. But we have construction companies, energy companies who rely on a lot of contractor labor for their work as well. For different reasons, and they're doing different things, but the concept is the same. You need to pay for the contractor's time the same way that you pay for supplies that you bring into your organization. It goes through your payable system, through your supply chain, but at the same time, whilst they're not your employee, they are an employee who needs to be looked after, to be nurtured, and ultimately needs to feed into your projects. So the sort of challenges that we have is the contractor just wants to get on board really quickly and wants to get paid, because in today's market, if you're not quick, they've gone somewhere else. And if they come to you and you don't pay them on time, they'll go to somebody else. So keeping those contractors is really important, right? But we might also then have we've got to set up a purchase order to the agency that they come through, and we're limited on the agencies that we can use because of the maintenance of these suppliers. But we have to raise a purchase order, and then to pay that purchase order, we have to receipt the fact that they've done that time. And then the project manager says, well, why is that important? I've already authorized their timesheets so that I can bill them through projects. Why do I need to go in and say, I've received that time? Surely I've received that time anyway. And then the manager might say, well, do you know, like, they're here for quite a while. I need to have an idea of whether they're any good or not. So some sort of light touch appraisal. But, you know, I don't need to go to the full appraisal process that I do with everybody else. And then the recruiter who's got this person on board says, okay, now if that person was really good, I want to know about that, because I want to know that next time I've got a role, I can bring that person back rather than go out and start the whole process again. So that all of these are challenges that we have commonly with organizations. And we have looked at fixing these before, right? The one around invoices into, receipting time into invoices. We tried to do that for a customer a few years ago, and we could do it. There were tools that allowed us to do it. We could write a custom extension to Fusion and run it in coexistence, which we do all of the time for customers in gaps, but it wasn't going to be cost effective. Right. And they were using a third-party tool that was made for this. And whilst they didn't like that tool because it forced them to use just a couple of agencies, so they felt that they were not having access to the full pool of contractors that they wanted, but it worked for them. So we knew they didn't like it, but replacing it wasn't going to be cost effective at that time. So we thought this is a great opportunity to have a go at that. So Jenna, this is the picture of, what's in scope in Oracle. Just talk us quickly through the areas that we're covering in this solution.
Yeah, so we wanted to enhance a lot of the Oracle Cloud HCM functionality. So we looked at the existing modules that are in HCM today, and we really wanted to figure out how we can support the contractor lifecycle. And what we did is we thought, okay, so we've got core HR. Well, we want to use connections, and we want to use recruiting and onboarding and learning and time and labor. And we want to enhance those processes with Oracle Me. That way we can have a better contractor life cycle that's less challenging to onboard contractors.
Brilliant. So we looked at this in two different ways, from the employee point of view and from the contractor point of view. So Jen, if you want to talk a little bit more about some of the areas that we looked at.
Sure. So, we all know HCM has this really awesome, complete solution, but if you're working in HCM or ERP, you have very separate roles and responsibilities. So we needed to figure out a way to unify these modules. So that was how we designed this product, with the contractor in mind and keeping in mind all the different actors from the HCM to ERP side that are going to be engaging, as well as the line manager. So what we did is we looked at the two people. So we've got your contractor, and then you've got your organization. So that could be the line manager, it could be accounts payable, it could be ERP, and there's a lot of different people involved. So what we did is we looked at the onboarding process for recruitment. So obviously you're going to recruit your contractor, and like Deborah was saying, it's very important to get their payment information so that we can pay them. So we have a My Contractor payment journey. This allows them to immediately provide their direct deposit information so we can pay them as soon as the rest of the journey is complete. And then additionally, we've got our contractor setup journey with OPA. So this allows us to link contractor information to our internal systems. And then we've also got a separate payment journey with OPA to set up the payment method and the purchase order and the vendor as required. It's depending on if you're using a agency or a 1099. You have different options to link the contractor's information out to third-party systems. And then as we go into the next phase, actual onboarding. So most organizations have a standard onboarding that they use, and journeys will help you to get that information to the contractor. So whatever paperwork they need to populate, if they haven't done it in ORC, or if you're not using ORC, maybe you're using Taleo or another system, you can always use journeys to get that information. And then some special things you might need that can really enhance the contractor lifecycle are their skills. So we wanted to have a journey for them to add their skills, because what we're looking at too long-term is, what if we want to move this contractor to a full-time employee? It's not typical that we would get their skills because they're not an employee. So we really want to get that information so we have it in our organization, and in the future, if we want to move them to an employee, we already know all the skills that they have. And then we also have our invoice learning. So depending on your timesheet and your invoice training, you might need to have a specific learning. If you have Oracle Learn, this will link directly into Oracle Learn. But if you have a third-party learning tool, this can also send them directly to that third-party system to do their learning. And then we'll have their contextual journey. So depending on the type of contractor, if it's maybe an administrative contractor or someone out in the field, they can use this training depending on their role, because we can have contextual training with the journey, and they can either have a deep link to a third-party system or use their LMS. So they can learn about their role and all their responsibilities. Maybe they have specific training if they're out in the field. And then we also have just our kind of general onboarding, our compliance, policy rules, reviews, methodology. Maybe they need time with their manager. So all this can be in place as quickly as possible because it's all in the journey. And then now that they're onboarded, we've got them during an active contract. So there's a bunch of additional things we might need to ask the contractor to do. So One of them is Secure Pass. So our company has an application that we've built out to allow contractors to reset their password to log into HCM without a corporate email address. This is very common for a lot of contractors. They don't have a corporate email address. And this really helps us reduce a lot of time, and they don't have to reach out to a help desk because it's all in one. They just send a notification to the system and it automatically resets their password. Another one is they might need to access their external time through an Apex front end exposed from HCM. So they don't have to go to multiple systems. They just go straight to HCM and they can link to all the other systems that they need access to. And then they can also submit their time and the invoice gets generated and then they get paid. So it's a really simple process for the contractor because they just have to go to one system to do everything. Another area that was really important for us was to do some kind of light touch performance appraisal. We don't typically do performance appraisals for contractors, but we want to do some kind of light touch so we can use touch points to do that. And then another thing that was really helpful for us was using connections. So managers can find other contractors that have skills for potentially new contractor positions, or if they want to convert them to an employee. And we also have an internal campaign with HCM Communicate. So we can reach out directly with targeted messages with Communicate to convince those contractors to apply for full-time jobs. And then we also have our auto receipt PO when the timesheet is approved. And then when we go to the offboarding, so we've got our standard offboarding. Most organizations have a standard offboarding, but we wanted to enhance that. So we really want to have the contractors share their knowledge. So we have a journey for them to do that. And then they'll get sign off with their line manager. So we know they've, knowledge transferred and handed off before they leave the organization. And a really big thing for us is having a pool of trusted contractors. So we want to save time in the future. So if we have a pool of trusted contractors, we have all their skills, we have their performance data, we have a knowledge transfer. So we can easily document which contractors with our trusted contractor portal have already been approved. And then in the future, we can bring them back in the organization faster. So you could almost just say, if somebody is marked as a trusted contractor, you wouldn't even need to do an interview because you already know that their skills meet what the next contractor role has, or if you're looking to move them to an employee. And we are able to do this with an OIC extension and feed this back into ORC.
Okay, so before we move to the next slide, I just want to clarify something there. So two things. One, a lot of those concepts are, would be really good in like professional services. So that need to collect knowledge from people, do a knowledge transfer when perhaps they've been a contractor working on an implementation, say, making sure that the organization retains that information. And then in a couple of places, Jennifer talked about process automation. Now, I just want to say, in a world of acronyms, and Oracle has an awful lot of acronyms, OPA stood for Oracle Policy Automation, but that was renamed about 18 months ago. And so what we're actually talking here is about process automation. So about the running an external system from Oracle. So creating the process that says, when I've done this, I want to do this over here. And that's one area that we're still working with, and we'll talk about that later. But just so we clear up that confusion that, Intelligent Advisor used to be called OPA. So just a clarification there. Okay, so these are a couple of screenshots, Jen, that you had for your journeys. I'll just flick through them and go to the demo, but you can see that the technology allows it to be very simple to consume. If you haven't seen the content from Cloud World around the applications platform, then go back and have a look at that and understand where the Oracle user experience is brought into the look and feel what they call the Redwood platform, and how this makes it just so much easier this isn't just a list, it's aesthetically pleasing and easy for you to walk through. And you know, even the skills, it's easy to visualize what it is that you're putting in on the screen. It does endear people to use the system more than a simple form that's top to bottom. There's a lot of thought gone into how you're absorbing the experience that's been set up for you. So I'm going to play a little video now and hope that this works, because as a demo of what we actually did. So hopefully you'll be able to hear this. It's only a few minutes, and unfortunately it's still me, but hopefully this will bring that to life, what Jennifer's just explained.
Let's have a look at a few of the things we've talked about. We're hiring Sarah as a HR payroll expert, and this is her onboarding journey. First, we ask her to update her personal information. Then we're going to ask her to add some skills, some high-level skills which may not have been what we actually hired her for. And here, Sarah is going to add that she's got 4 years of Java development experience. This is going to be useful for us later when we start looking at what across our organisation. Going back to her journeys, the next thing that we ask is for her to complete some training. Journeys can either use Oracle Learning, or it can punch out to an external system depending on what your organisation uses. Here we just had Sarah look at some policy information. Going back to her journey, we want her to add a document. In this case, we're asking her to add a CV. This is very simple. She's just going to use drag and drop and bring that document in. The last thing on this journey that we've created for Sarah is for her to have a look at her employment information. And here she can find out information like who her manager is, although she may have met them during the interview process. So Frank is her manager. Sarah thinks, I'd like to know more about the organisation that I'm working for. So she's going to leave the journey, which she has now completed, which you can see here, and then she's going to go back to her home menu and she's going to have a look at connections. Connections is another part of the system which is really powerful, and she's just going to enter Frank's name. Very simple search across all data, and it's brought up data that's freely available about Frank, who's going to be her manager. That's all very interesting, and she's interested in that, but she thinks, well, what about the wider team? Who does Frank work for? So she's had a look at the organisation chart, and she can see not only his boss, his manager, but his peers. So a little bit more about the team that she's going to be working as part of. Now, when we looked at this, she just searched in a name. But if I was to go into the system and I searched for, say, Java, remember Sarah entered Java as a skill? So Sarah appears in this search about Java, and then someone can see that she has those skills, which might be useful when we're looking for them somewhere else in the organisation. When we look at recruitment, and I have this trusted contractors set up, I can see that I've got a number of people who I would like back in my organisation, people I know I can trust. And then using the AI in the system to look at the best fit for my candidates across a recruitment drive. If my top searches are from my trusted contractors, then I know I'm onto a good thing. So if you're interested in this and you'd like...
So what we were doing here is showing that there was just some of the parts of the solution that we built, that we did for this competition. And we had to submit this, as I said, to strategy, to development, to sales, and did this show enough about what the platform could be used for. And that was a very small demonstration of it, but we put together that whole story and about what we needed to do. So moving on from what Jen went through before, Jen, we obviously hadn't done all of that by October. So we had a roadmap, just like Oracle have. And you can see here, things that we already had in place, what we were working on at that time, and things that we're going to be a little bit further down the line. Jen, I'm conscious of the time, but one of those areas that was in our future was around making that process bit work. So I'm a great believer. I said, I like to pull things apart and build them up again. We wanted to be honest and say that processing between not just external systems, but between HCM and ERP is there, but we haven't completed doing that. And we are working, Jen, your team are working with the Centre of Excellence to get that set up and running. So we have no issue with it. We just haven't quite got there. And we want to be really honest about that.
Yeah, and I'll just add for the infrastructure process automation, you have it available through HCM Cloud. And one of the other benefits of it is if you have, for example, you don't have ERP, but you have maybe EBS or JD Edwards, you can use that automation and develop, outputs to those systems as well. Or even if you have another non-Oracle ERP tool. So it's really powerful to be able to link systems together.
Yeah, that being able to extend a process into a coexistent application, and that coexistent application can be ERP, finance, but it can equally be EBS, JDE, or a custom written, and we'll come back to that in a minute. So we have a roadmap about what we're doing, because we are going to use this in our organization. We're using some of it already, but we use lots of contractors, and so it's relevant to us. And I'd just like to give a call out to Jen's team, because they did the work. A great, there are superstars here. But I said at the beginning here that we had this problem. It's a common problem, and it's an area where we hear from our customers all the time that it's frustrating. Oracle has all of the components, and this is the bit that there's nothing there that Oracle couldn't do within the system. Oracle can pay people. Oracle can receipt time. Oracle can do approvals for OTL, etc., etc. But this is about orchestrating it and doing it in the journey. So and using some of these other components to make that experience what actual people needed. So Oracle had the components. This is about bringing it together and improving that experience for the employee. Another thing I would make the point of is going back to, this is a common problem. Our customer that we talked to 2 years ago said, if you add that auto receipting, if you get that process bit sorted, that when I do my timesheets, I am receipting in finance, then I'll replace the system that I'm using today. And that customer was at Cloud World and talked about this and was in the presentation when we gave it. Interestingly, we have another customer who has a much more urgent requirement, who wanted something else doing. And one of the things that was on Jennifer's roadmap was around when somebody's new to the organization, they will need to use other systems in the organization. So they might need to be in the office system. They might need to be in a finance system, a separate finance system. They might need to be in, a CX system or whatever. And that assignment to people, so it might be that they need physical hardware, but they might also need to be commissioned or set up on these systems. Those requests, there'll be a process for doing that. And we wanted to add that in there. And we have a customer that we're working with at the moment, and they have asked us to write them an extension that when they're onboarding somebody, they are automatic creating the tickets in their help desk system for that commissioning for those different products. And so that was on our next things to be done. But interestingly, another thing that was announced at Cloud World was this applications platform that I mentioned earlier, and using Visual Builder to build out extensions. And then after this, Oracle said to us, would we take our proof of concept further and build out something using the application platform? So we're now working with development on building this commissioning or ticket building for commissioning of applications when a new person comes on, using that applications platform and taking this even further. You know, it's really powerful, but as Oracle's continuous innovation never stops, then our job never stops either. So what have we done to make sure that this is, you know, to verify what we've been doing? Well, first of all, we're a customer, so we know it works for us. So implementing that internally, we are talking to other customers about it, with a couple of ones that are very keen on deploying it. We look at, it's a slightly different value proposition for, you know, a knowledge-based worker, like in professional services. There are slightly different or additional things that are needed against someone who's a very practical person who's actually, you know, doing a refit or something. That's something that's done over and over again, rather than bringing in new knowledge. We've done some validation with Gartner about the way that we've put it together. And, you know, we're now talking about it with our customers, with our business transformation. And as I say, we demoed and presented this at Cloud World with our award, which we're very pleased of. We did a customer connect session on it. We're doing this today. Oracle have asked us to put some what to think about, how to do it, documents into their resource center. So we're working on that. Later this week, we're doing a talk radio, and we're continuing to work with development. So we have this visual, as I've said just now, this Visual Builder proof of concept on commissioning of other systems. And we hope that we can delve deeper into this, into some other conferences. So, you know, we have, not to put you on the spot, Janice, but we have submitted for Ascend. And so to us, we feel that we've gone from this is a great idea, how would we use it, to actually having something that part of it's in use, and we're working with other customers to do that. So I hope that today's presentation has given you that understanding, a recap of what's in the My Experience platform, but actually a relevant use case with a number of components that should resonate with everybody. It's important to say that that's not the only use for it. We could, you know, I believe that it's a part of our toolbox that we can use for any challenge that a customer has. But we chose this one because it was a real need that we and our customers had, but it was also something that we felt that everybody would understand. So that's what we built, and hopefully we've explained that to you. So we had
a question.
Okay.
So and I'm gonna try to answer it because I'm not quite sure, but is this configuration or customization in Cloud HCM? So all of the Oracle Me Employee Experience platform is delivered out of the box as part of HCM. And depending on your licensing, you can purchase each of these products. But this entire employee experience platform allows you to configure what you want to use or not. And there's no real customization. So all of these Me experience platforms are available for you to set up and use. And then once you use them, you can link them together with journeys. So it's not really a customization. So it's just using the functionality in the platform to meet, you know, unique business challenges that you might face as a company.
I think sometimes it's semantics, right?
Yeah.
People
Yes.
worry that building is customization and you can't do that in cloud. Okay,
Exactly.
so we are not changing any code in the cloud application, right? We are configuring different components to bring them together to be consumed in a new way. So for instance, when you are in a journey and you go to the learning part to take a course, it's exactly the same functionality as assigning somebody onto a course and then going in and doing it. What the platform allows you is to say, hey, you can opt to do this, or it's part of a list of things that you must do at a certain point in time. But it hasn't actually changed the functionality. So it's allowing you to configure using these tools they've added to create that experience that you want. When Oracle talk about customization, what we used to do in EBS, creating new objects and creating new processes, that is where it's worth looking at that applications platform, and the way that you create an extension, which is what we call them in Fusion. So something that you want that's not in the application, you create an extension externally and you link the two together. And you may be using Visual Builder, or you may be using Apex, or you may be using something completely different. And in fact, however you build that is no different than if you bought a third-party solution. Bringing them together and coexisting them and using Oracle tools like integration or process to bring them together. They again are they're using tools, but they happen externally so that you are not customizing cloud HCM, and therefore you're not storing up problems for the future when Oracle make a change every 3 months. So I hope that clarifies and answers the question. What I was going to say was, when this was launched, it's part of HCM, and there is no cost for the journeys part, for the connections part, for a number of the things. There is no additional cost if you have those modules in HCM, so core in HCM. There is additional cost if you use
The touch points and communicate.
Communicate, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But there was such a great response to this. Customers who use financials only were saying, well, why can't we use this platform? And so Oracle have created a license SKU, whereas if you're not using HCM, you can still use the My Experience platform over for your employees, so i.e. the users within finance or manufacturing or supply chain. So that's a testament to how well this has been received by customers. So I hope people found that useful. I hope that it answered, actually, I hope it's left you with more questions, because I always feel that if people come away with questions, then you've done a good job because they're thinking about it. If we will make this available through Janice, if people have questions, they can contact us or go to Janice and we'll do them. What I tend to do is, if we get questions after the event, I tend to write a blog with the answer so that we can share those answers. You know, Janice will tell you every user group wants to know what do their members want. So if you want any follow-ups or you want to explore any particular area more, then let her know, and I'm sure that us or other volunteers in the user group can answer those for you.
Yes, please let us know at info@ohug.org. If you have questions, we can funnel those to Deborah and Jennifer, and anything you would like to share with us, of course, we'll see that too.
Brilliant.
So thank you so much, Jennifer and Deborah. We really appreciate this informative presentation that you shared with us today, and we'll hope to see you again soon.
Brilliant.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank
And thank
you.
you everyone for staying with us. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.